I don't believe what I just saw.
This is one of the great moments in the history of baseball.
I believe in miracles. Yes!
Is this the dagger?
It's New Year's Eve. Today, and today only, the Ice Bowl cometh. NBA refs make it all about them for the first time ever. The Knights shower Las Vegas in golden glory. The Browns set a new low, even for them. I thought you'd like that. Steinbrenner brings the biggest fish to New York. The fog rolls into Chicago. The Red Army rolls into Montreal. And Johnny Football is good at football for the very last time. All the big national headlines and all the fine print from the local sports page too. Hot off the presses, this is today's edition of This Week in... Oh, no. I did that. I thought I'd catch it. Of this day in sports.
Oh, right.
It was going so well.
It was going pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, the Knights shower Las Vegas in golden glory.
Yeah.
I mean, what happens in Vegas, I guess. And,
See?
and see what it did? Yes, this day in sports. Our
This
final
day,
episode
it's not a week yet, no.
of the year.
Yeah.
New Year's Eve.
Here it is, New Year's Eve. Let's make it special. And if this is early enough in the day, and you got to go out on New Year's Eve and you got to look your best, head on down to Cabin Barber and Gentleman Supply, where we are now. We are in the Port Credit location. There are 3 locations. You can check out Union Station. You can check out Queens Quay. We are sponsored by Cabin Barber and Gentleman Supply. They are fantastic people. They have great hair cutters, great beard trimmers, and generally just fantastic people here that have all sorts of male and female and anything kind of gift accoutrement. Like you cannot just say it's a guy's shop, even though it's a gentleman's. You can come in here and get something for the lady in your life, Matt.
I could.
You could.
I could get gifts for, you know what?
Yeah.
The holidays are over.
Yeah.
It's New Year's Eve. But if I'm thinking about birthdays or, somebody gets you a gift, somebody always gets you a gift and you didn't get them a gift. And you're like, it's in my car or I forgot or whatever. Come down here, get them something and drop it off.
Yeah. You don't have to be a gentleman to come here, but it helps. Yeah. Because a lot of these things are pretty they're like haberdashery stuff. They're like swanky stuff,
I
like
feel more
ties
sophisticated every time I
That's
come
what
in.
it is. It smells like a gentleman in here. That's what it is. It smells like a gentleman.
I wear T-shirts every day, but I feel like when I come here, I get a little bit classier.
I think you look like a gentleman, Mike, but do you smell like a gentleman?
And do you act?
I don't think so.
Do you act like a gentleman?
I don't think I smell unlike a gentleman, but I know I don't smell like a gentleman.
Frank, do you smell like a gentleman?
On Sundays.
Matt, do you smell gentleman?
No, I'm sorry. I heard the question, and the question was, "Do I smell gentleman?"
Yeah. Did you see what I did? I made you feel comfortable with the question, then I switched it on you in hopes that you would say a funny answer.
It's an old improv trick.
It is an old improv trick. That's right. So do you smell gentleman?
Sure. You know what? When the opportunity is there, in the appropriate situation.
When Frank's having a good day,
yes,
I smell him.
It's great to take out the yes, no, and just say, how much do you smell, gentlemen? Then you just have to.
You often talk about how the owner, Louis.
Oh, Louis.
Smells great.
Jeez, that guy smells fantastic. Looks great all the time. Obviously, this is his place because he looks like the place.
Yeah.
He does. He fits right in. For more, check out cabinforlife.ca.
For more of this discussion.
For more gentleman sniffing.
For more.
Go to cabinforlife.ca.
Appreciate that. Yeah, just, go ahead or, write your letters of complaint and put them on that website.
Let's get this party started.
Let's party, Matt.
New Year's Eve, 1954. The Fort Wayne Pistons and Minneapolis Lakers combined to attempt 127 free throws, the most ever in an NBA game. Minneapolis won 103-91, and 90 points in the game were scored from the free throw line.
Yeah.
Wild night in Minneapolis.
Let's put it this way. Shaq didn't play for those Lakers.
Oh.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
If we all walked out there right now to like a regulation hoop, and you made 10 free throws, you got to do 10 free. How many do you make
these days?
Yeah,
6.
Okay, I'm 3.
Yeah,
Mike.
Between 3 and 6.
Frank
4.5.
I used to be pretty.
Frank doesn't know.
Pretty good.
4 for Frank.
I used to be pretty good.
I have to say, there's
practice.
a hoop in Mexico when we go down there, and every year I go out and shoot every day.
Yeah.
So for a month, I just try to shoot and get my shot back to what it was.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder than you think.
Oh man, is it ever?
Shooting a free throw, like
Yeah.
from no angle, right?
Yeah.
It's nice to have an angle when you're shooting from a bit of difference. You get. It's not as easy as you think, because I do exactly that. I'll stand there and be like, the free throw line's there, and I'll start trying to. I don't even know if I bat 500.
If you don't shoot
Now,
free
I was
throws
not a great
consistently,
basketball
though-
player, but
okay, yeah, sure. But I can shoot free throws pretty consistently. But if you don't practice them all
Do
the time,
you do
there's
them
no
Rick Barry
rhythm.
style underhand?
I do them Bill Lambier style. The warm up part where I dip it down between my legs, then take the shot. I used to do that in high school as a joke, and my coach one time was like, "If I ever see that again, you're never playing another game again." He hated it. But you remember the Lambier, Detroit Pistons fan, the Lambier weird between his legs and thing. Oh man, annoying.
And Giannis takes forever to shoot them. Yeah.
Hey.
Okay. 1988, the Fog Bowl. During the second quarter of an NFC division playoff game between Chicago and Philadelphia, a blinding fog rolled into the stadium off of Lake Michigan into Soldier Field. It obscured any view of the game for most of the 65,000 fans there in attendance, and the TV broadcast could only show shots from ground level for the rest of the game. Players later said they could only see 10 or 15 yards in front of them at any point. The Bears won the game 20-12, scoring the game's only 2 touchdowns early in the game before the fog rolled in. Smart.
You better start,
Get
start
ahead and then have that fog roll in. Sit on that
knew.
lead.
That's a perfect idea. New Year's Eve, 1901. Canadians goalie George Vezina, who the famous Vezina Trophy is named after, played the first of 367 consecutive games. Montreal lost 5-3 to Ottawa in the NHA.
Yeah.
Wow.
It wasn't the NHL yet.
Wow, NHA season opener. He played every game for Montreal over the next 15 seasons. Friends, this is no mask and not much equipment.
Yeah.
George Vezina deserves to have a trophy named
Yes.
after him, and it is a real trophy.
The Shakuni cucumber.
Yeah.
Earned.
1967. So we talked about the Fog Bowl. This is the Ice Bowl.
Yes.
At Lambeau Field, where temperatures hovered around minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit with the wind chill. As the Packers defeated Dallas 21-17 in the NFL championship game. Green Bay trailed by 3 with less than 5 minutes remaining, but QB Bart Starr led a 68-yard drive that ended with him diving into the end zone for a 1-yard rushing TD with just 13 seconds left. And you can see clips or maybe watch the whole game on the internet. It looks cold.
Awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
Like that ground, I would not want to be tackled on.
Break your fingers every
Oh.
time.
I'm a giant suck about cold weather. Like, I hate the cold. I hate it.
I know
like
about
when you're
this.
when you're shooting and stuff, and you're like
Yeah.
standing around for hours in the nothing makes me more unhappy.
I know about this because during the pandemic, you'd hang out in our backyard.
That's right.
And when it was a little bit cold out, it was almost like you'd pan the camera around our entire backyard and everyone's having a great time. And there's old lady Shara with 17 blankets and 2 jackets begging to go home. And it's not that cold. And he's not playing football. And there's a fire pit there. And he's not interested.
No,
not interested.
I hate it so much.
No.
I feel like they like the CFL, like for the Grey Cup and all that, like with all the guys who go bare arms, like they just go and get them numb, like they get cold and
Yeesh.
Now, in fairness to those guys at CFL too, it's November, which is cold,
true.
but end of December in Wisconsin is obviously next
That's
level.
bitter.
That's a
cold.
great point. That's a really great point.
Okay, 2016, in much warmer weather, during a 129-121 Houston win over the Knicks, Rockets guard James Harden had an astonishing line of 53 points, 16 rebounds, and 17 assists in the game. Harden became just the 6th player ever to record a triple-double while scoring at least 50 points. The others were Kareem, Russell Westbrook, Elgin Baylor, Richie Guerin, and Wilt Chamberlain. Harden is the only player to have at least 50, 15, and 15, though. The only player ever to do that. James Harden is a very, not controversial, I think opinions are very wide-ranging about him as a player, right?
Sure.
Because he's a volume guy, obviously. And I'm sure he hoisted up 700 shots to make that. But he couldn't have because he had 17 assists.
Yeah, right.
So clearly he was not hogging the ball.
Yeah.
And he had 16 rebounds as a guard.
Yeah.
Like, it's astonishing, right? And
he's a big body guard, that's for sure.
He is a
can
big
definitely
body guard,
box
and
out
he's an unconventional guard.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't know if people like James Harden as he's maneuvered himself around the league a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot, but there's no getting around it.
As of late, he's not a fan.
No, he's not a popular guy, and never really was a beloved player.
Yeah.
And, there was one of the years I think the year he won MVP, he also led the league in turnovers.
Oh,
and I was like, how can the MVP lead the league in turnovers? But then you do that, and you're like, well, no one has ever done anything like that, ever.
Yeah, sure.
He's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I'm divided on him, too, as you can tell.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I will only say that you can lead the league in turnovers and still have those great numbers when you have the ball a lot. And
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
That's just like you say, volume and good and bad volume.
Yeah, except that tonight, like I say, tonight he 17 assists.
Yeah.
Like he was basically a point guard who's, which he officially plays. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
You don't have to apologize in this show, Mike, because in 2021,
I'm getting cold though.
New Year's Eve, 2021, Alexander Ovechkin broke Dave Andreychuk's NHL record for the most power play goals in history by recording his 275th goal with a man advantage during a 3-1 Washington win over the Red Wings. Now, Andreychuk scored a ton of those goals simply by standing in front of the net. Big body,
and
big
being
stick,
big and hard to
and then rebound, tip it, whatever. Yeah. Ovechkin was all over the place, but Ovechkin is just a stack up of records now.
I feel like Ovechkin was kind of only ever in one place too.
Yeah,
he's just a little further back,
sure,
in that slot where they always pass him the puck, and he's like one time in it.
Yeah,
so every goal of his I see.
Well, I would say only that Ovechkin knows exactly where to be, and that is where you need to be.
Yeah.
Andreychuk knew exactly where to be, exactly in front of the net, in front of the goalie.
Yeah. Hey, it worked, right?
It worked. It definitely worked.
Sticking with hockey, in 1975, in a game that some call the greatest hockey game ever played, the Soviet Red Army team tied the Canadians 3-3 at the Forum in Montreal. Steve Shutt, Yvon Conroy, Yvon Lambert scored for Montreal. Sorry, muffed that a bit in the first two periods. But it's New Year's Eve.
All right, you pulled it up.
But the Russians came back in the third when goalie Ladislav Tretiak stopped all 16 shots he faced in the third frame. You can watch some of this game. I watched some of this game. Incredible. I think Tretiak is 23 years old at this time, maybe.
Wow.
It looked like a great game. And to think that it was on New Year's Eve and everyone got to go out and party
fantastic.
after.
In Montreal, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Something I didn't realize until I looked a bit. I didn't realize that Tretiak was actually drafted in 1983 by the Canadians.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. What if right there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He apparently wanted to play in the NHL, and there was talk that it might be allowed.
Yeah.
But
obviously never
But nobody was coming here then, right?
No.
They weren't.
I mean, it was a 7th round selection, so you're kind of like
they took a flyer.
Yeah,
4
and I mean he
years
was in his
before McGillney, making the
Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's about
would
right.
it
87ish. I think I'd say McGillney.
Okay.
Wow.
I'll have to fact check that one. Frank's gonna have to fact check.
Imagine what that would have been.
McGillney.
Like.
Who was the first Russian?
McGillney. When did he defect to play in the NHL? I was wondering what year that was because you said Tretiak was 83. He was drafted.
Well, he was drafted in 83.
Yeah, I feel like McGillney. I feel like he was 87. Maybe that's his number, but
And by 83, he was well into his career too. Tretiak.
Yeah.
He
Oh no, he would have been like 31 or something like that. But
he would go down and then make those saves just kicking his legs around. His amazing kind of turtle. 89 was the year
So
for
he was
McGillney.
in the World Juniors.
Yeah, that's right.
Stockholm, and he disappeared into the night.
He sure
Yes.
now, is he the first Russian or just the first
I thought
Russian
he
to
was
come over at that time? I don't know if he was the first.
I thought
Russian
McGillney was
to
the
play.
first Russian.
Certainly in that time, but was there any earlier?
Frank? I don't know. Frank's gonna have to look that up. First Russian to play in the AHL, Frank.
Well, I remember. Yeah.
Victor Nekayev.
Yeah,
Oof.
I think there was
Yeah.
people before.
3 games for Los Angeles.
In what
The
year?
only player from Russia to play in the NHL.
So it was McGillney number 2?
Me not know.
This could be the whole night of it.
Okay.
guys.
Okay.
Moving on. Who's up?
Okay, so we have every once in a while we talk about somebody passing away.
Yeah.
We mention their name. This gets its own little thing from me because I think it's he's worth it. In 1972, tragedy strikes when 38-year-old Pirates outfielder Roberto Clemente was killed in a plane crash in Puerto Rico. Clemente and 4 others died when their plane, which was carrying aid to earthquake victims in Nicaragua, never got more than 200 feet off the ground before crashing. Just 3 months earlier, Clemente had recorded his 3,000th career hit in the final game of that season, though he had no plans to retire. In honor of Clemente, the MLB honors one player every year with an award in his name that rewards a player who combines baseball, community, and sportsmanship. Recent winners include Aaron Judge, Adam Wainwright, Nelson Cruz, and Curtis Granderson. Clemente, one of the great players of all time, but also one of the great humanitarians of all time. I felt like just mentioning his death in a blurb at the end wasn't worth it.
No,
I think he's
you're right.
worth his life is worth more than that.
Yep. It absolutely
even
is.
though it's a bit of a downer.
It's a bit of a downer, but there's not really anything you can add to that because
No.
it's like completely true. Well, I can bring you back.
Yeah.
Not really. In 1972, that same year, same day, Margaret Court defeated Yvonne Gugalong, one of our favorite names, in straight sets to win her record 11th and final Australian Open Women's Championship. And if you ever seen Battle of the Sexes, that was Emma Stone playing Billie Jean King. Margaret Court does not come off well.
Well, I was just going to say, don't ask Margaret Court her feelings about immigration and things like that.
Or same-sex couples.
She's known to have some beliefs that are...
It's not good for old Margaret Court. But you know what? She's no Roberto Clemente. That's all I got.
That was a counter. And they don't.
Yeah.
We're doing opposites.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
New Year's Eve 2017, the Browns lost to the Steelers 28-24 in Pittsburgh, sealing a winless season. No other team in the NFL won less than 3 games that season. The lone bright spot for the Browns was that they had a rookie cornerback who had 22 interceptions that year. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's their quarterback. See what I did there? Their quarterback.
Oh, that was good.
Their rookie quarterback, Deshaun Kaiser.
Who smelled a lot of gentlemen.
Yeah, he smelled a lot of gentlemen. 22
yeah,
gentlemen that
allegedly.
year. Allegedly, he smelled 22 gentlemen.
So he was their second-round pick that year. He finished, with a league-high 22 interceptions that year, and he had an 0-15 record as a starter. Never started another NFL game. Played a bit as backup in Green Bay after that, but 11 TDs and 22 interceptions that season. Hey, so they went undefeated. This sealed it. Remember who they took with the pick? First pick?
Vinny Testaverde.
No. This is 2017. So that
Still
pick
Vinny.
turned in-
Still Vinny
Is that
Testaverde.
Johnny Football?
No, this is Baker.
Baker Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield.
Yes.
Right.
That draft. That was we didn't know Baker, Josh Rosen,
Yeah.
Josh Allen,
Yeah.
and Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
Of course, the last pick of the first draft that year was Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
So yeah, that was a tough one.
Good times.
But I was, when they took Baker, that seemed like a good pick at the time.
Well,
And
it's
he's...
a bit of a resurgence with Tampa right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's a better pick than people initially. I mean, it's like I said, it's where you end up.
Yeah.
It's a big thing.
Yeah.
You went to
Absolutely.
a bad team.
Yeah.
You can't do anything if you're on a bad team with
Yeah.
a bad coach and
Yeah.
that's tough. New Year's Eve 2017, William Karlsson scored the first hat trick in Golden Knights franchise history during a 6-3 Las Vegas win over the Leafs, their 7th consecutive win. They finished the month of December with an 11-1-1 record, the most wins in a month by any expansion team in NHL history. That was the Golden Glory.
Thank you. That was the Golden Glory. Yeah. In 1974, Dutch forward Johan Cruyff won the Ballon d'Or as the best football player in Europe. He was playing for FC Barcelona at the time, and it was his 3rd time winning the award. We had Van Basten last time. This time we're going with Cruyff. It's all Dutch soccer all the time on this day in sports.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it quick hits?
Whatever you want, Matt.
yeah.
Have we named all that? We done? Oh, no, it can't be yet. It can't be yet.
Sandy's got one more. I
Because
think.
we got one that was teased up, and I don't want to
Okay.
the fans.
Okay.
Do you want me to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let me roll back to it. I got rattled. All right, here we go. In 1974, so this is New Year's Eve, 1974, 2 weeks after an arbitrator declared him a free agent because Oakland A's owner Charlie Finley reneged on a payment he was due. Cy Young Award-winning pitcher Catfish Hunter signed a record 5-year, $3.75 million contract with the New York Yankees. He spurned more lucrative offers from the Royals and the Padres to be closer to his home in North Carolina because the Yankees played on natural grass. But a lot of different stories about this particular signing are absolutely fascinating. One was that Ray Kroc, who owned the Padres and also was the founder of McDonald's, basically was on his yacht about to sign Catfish Hunter, and then his wife overheard how much he was going to pay and said, "There's no way you're paying for anybody." So he was out for the Padres, and the guys for the Yankees were just sitting there waiting in that little town in North Carolina just to see who came around, and waiting until they all kind of came and left, and then went and topped the offers. They were doing everything they could to get him on that team. Yeah, because Catfish was a farmer. He's just like sitting out there on his tractor all day, loving that.
Yeah.
And
And Charlie Finley gave him the nickname Catfish, right? Because he had so little personality.
yeah.
Charlie Finley was trying to like drum up
Yeah.
a character.
Look at this
for him.
character.
So
yeah.
You're Catfish.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I'm just Jim.
Yeah.
Like, he's
Yeah. He just made up a nickname for him to make it more interesting.
based on nothing.
That is a fascinating story if you want to track it, though, how they actually ended up in New York. Quick hits, Matt. Let's do
Wait.
it.
We have one more that I teased.
Whoa!
We have one more. 2013? 2013.
13.
That was a great year.
Yeah.
2013, Texas A&M came back from a 38-17 halftime deficit versus Duke to win the Chick-fil-A Bowl at the Georgia Dome in Atlanta. 2012 Heisman Trophy winning quarterback Johnny Manziel was 30 of 38 for 382 yards and 4 TDs, as well as 73 rushing yards and another TD in his final college game. However, that was, as I said in the teaser, that was kind of the last game where he was any good.
Yeah.
Also, side note, Chick-fil-A is no longer the food sponsor at the Georgia Dome, right?
Yeah.
It was where they were like, you could get Chick-fil-A famously in the States, not open on Sundays.
Yes, but
So when you'd go to a
Football.
Falcons game on a Sunday, you could not get.
come on, is that true? I thought
Yeah.
they broke the rule
No, they
just for
did
the
not.
football games. Oh, wow.
Jesus does not allow you to.
Wow.
No. So you go to Falcons games on a Sunday, and the main food sponsor
Is not
was not working.
Oh, my God. Well, I knew that about that. Well, we had Margaret Corp mentioned earlier, now Chick-fil-A, so
couldn't they just hire
same-sex
heathens?
relationships are not doing well today
No,
on this
no.
sport.
They couldn't hire heathens to just run
Yeah,
the shop.
really.
Yeah, no.
I know. Okay, quick hit. Get us out of here, Matt. Quick hit.
Hire heathens.
Quick hits! New Year's Eve, 1988, during an 8-6 win over New Jersey, Pittsburgh center Mario Lemieux became the first and only player in NHL history to score a goal 5 different ways in the same game. Lemieux scored at even strength on the power play, shorthanded, on a penalty shot, and to the Devils' empty net. To top things off, he assisted on all 3 of the Penguins' other goals that night.
Oh, my God.
That is just incredible to
That
score
is.
a goal 5 different,
Yeah.
I feel like at some point the Devils must have been like playing along.
Yeah.
Like they.
What's
noticed,
another way?
Hey, he's got a penalty shot and a
Yeah.
power play. Let's give him a shorty too. Like
Yeah, but I mean, like, it was an 8-6, so the pulling the goalie made sense.
No, I know.
Yeah.
It's just
But
like-
I get you.
it's amazing. 1983, San Francisco won 24-23 over Detroit in an NFC divisional playoff game when Lions kicker Eddie Murray missed a 43-yard field goal in the game's final second. Due to an injury to starter Eric Hipple in Week 16, Detroit was forced to start veteran backup QB Gary Danielson, who threw 4 interceptions in the game, helping the Niners edge them in the playoffs.
Quick hits. Quick hit. In 1966, after 15 seasons with the team, the Braves traded future Hall of Fame third baseman Eddie Matthews to the Astros for 2 players. Matthews is the only player to have played for the Braves in all 3 cities they called home: Atlanta, Boston, Milwaukee. The order would have been Boston, Milwaukee, Atlanta, and he hit 493 home runs for the franchise, won 2 NL home run titles, and was a 12-time All-Star. He retired 2 years after the trade, but in that 2 years, he did win another World Series with the Detroit Tigers.
Quick hit! Sticking with Mario Lemieux. I should have done this one first because it's 3 years earlier. 1985, Mario Lemieux scored the first hat trick of his NHL career, scoring 4 goals and assisting on 2 others as the Penguins defeated St. Louis 8-4.
Quick hits. We're going to do another James Harden one. 2018. During a 113-101 Houston win over Memphis, Rockets guard James Harden had 43 points. It was his 4th consecutive game with at least 40 and his 8th consecutive game with at least 35. He became just the 2nd player in NBA history to have 35 points and 8 assists. Again, 8 assists in 8 consecutive games. The other was Oscar Robertson.
Quick hits. In 2016, Deshaun Watson rushed for 2 TDs and passed for another as number 3 Clemson crushed number 2 Ohio State in the Fiesta Bowl to set up a national championship rematch versus Alabama the next week. And what happened there?
Oh. A lot of Browns quarterbacks on this.
I just wanted to do it because there was another chance to mention a Browns quarterback.
Yeah.
All greats.
We're Browns.
Quick hit! 1992. Mario Lemieux's favorite day of the year continues to be December 31st when he scored 2 points during the Penguins' 3-3 tie versus Toronto. The goal and the assist give him 100 points already that season in just his 38th game.
Oof.
Mario Lemieux, good at hockey.
Turns out.
This just in. Also on that night in 1992, Sabres rookie Yuri Kimlev had a hat trick with all 3 goals coming in the third period during an 11-6 win over the Rangers at Buffalo's Memorial Auditorium. Teammate Alexander McGillney also had a hat trick, which was already his 4th of that season.
Oh, circling back, of course, to mention Alabama did win that championship over Clemson. That was a big final. I'm going to swing it right into birthdays, if you don't mind.
I don't.
Yeah.
Happy birthday! New Year's Eve, 1941. Longtime Manchester United manager Sir Alex Ferguson in Glasgow, Scotland. Alex Ferguson, check out the Beckham doc. See what you think of him.
Happy birthday.
I've watched them.
Could go either way.
Can go either. Okay. We should say this is a New Year's Eve birthday. So I
New
don't
Year's
know.
Eve birthday,
Like I don't know if that's good or bad. I would guess it's kind of not great because everyone's already partying. Everyone's got
Yeah.
plans. You're trying
Yeah.
to get them.
My beloved late grandmother's birthday was December 26th.
Oh, yeah.
It
Oh,
was the worst.
The next
We'd all be
day.
leaving like Christmas night, like, oh yeah, and have a great
Yeah, great night.
birthday tomorrow. We won't see you.
We won't. Yeah, we've already done this tonight. I think that if it's you've kind of got an automatic party though.
Yeah,
that's true. And you can go to people. Hey, it's my birthday.
Yeah,
it's
it's
your
my
birthday.
birthday.
Yeah.
Buy me a drink,
Everyone's
yeah.
really into it. So happy birthday in 1904 to 2-time Vezina Trophy winning goalie Charlie Gardner. He was born in Edinburgh, Scotland. Hall of Fame goalie. He's got goals against average of 2.02. That's 3rd all time in the NHL.
We are only doing Scottish birthdays.
Let's do it. Scottish birthday day.
2-time All-Star and legendary Blue Jays pitcher Esteban Loaiza was born in Tijuana, Scotland today,
Whoa.
in 1971.
Wait a minute.
This is our loose tie-in to today's draft. Is Esteban Loaiza's birthday? Yeah. That's how loose we're tying. That's how we're tying
fair.
this together.
That's
today.
fair. He is
Yeah.
a Blue Jay.
Yeah.
Happy birthday in 1961. 3-time All-Star reliever Rick Aguilera in San Gabriel, Scotland.
Happy birthday in 1990. Olympic gold medalist and 3-time world champion figure skater Patrick Chan was born in Ottawa, Scotland.
1948, Sabres French Connection member René Robert was born in Trois-Rivières, Scotland.
Hey, it's a sad day because in 1980, New Year's Eve 1980, this is how you ruin a New Year's Eve party. First pitcher to throw a pitch at Yankee Stadium, Bob Shockey, at the young age of 90 in Edinburgh, Scotland. You'd just gotten there and died.
Oh, man.
Yeah, 90 though. Not
Oh,
bad. Not
lordy.
bad. Oh, I mean 90.
Oh, the Pete.
Pete?
The Pete.
It's not the peat. It's the
Pete.
humidity. Terrible.
That's good.
Well,
All right, let's get to
this
this.
feels like the
Scottish
right.
themed
Yeah,
draft,
thank
yeah.
you. The Scottish theme. Well, it was loosely, Mike. You said it was loose theme. Why are we saying that?
Well, okay, so we have our special guest today is very associated with the Blue Jays. We'll
Yep.
just say that. And so he has given us our draft issue.
Yes,
we have not decided this. He picked the
He
draft for us, as did our previous guest.
Yep.
And his assignment that he has given us is we are to pick, I believe, 5. Is that right? Each?
Yeah.
5. We'll go round robin.
Yep.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of drinking. He wants us to pick 5 former or current Blue Jays
Yep.
who we would like to have a beer with.
Yeah.
He also specified for an hour.
For 1 hour.
Yeah.
This specific. Yes, it was.
So he doesn't want you to go on a bender with this
Yeah.
person.
Yeah. 1 hour with
You
this
have an
person.
hour, you can chat with them for an hour,
Yeah.
which I think made it more interesting and
Sure.
did change my picks a bit.
Sure.
Because some people you would not want to spend
More than an hour.
8 hours with drinking.
yeah.
Some
Yeah.
people you would.
Yeah.
Some people you'd be like, you know what, I got an hour's worth of discussion I want to have with you, and then we'll be done.
I want to add that he just said that you would spend an hour with him. You threw in the beer,
Oh, is that right?
but that's okay.
Okay,
but that's fine.
Okay,
I think.
Yeah,
Sets
sure.
the tone of the.
I think we're spending. I think we can choose how we want to spend the hour.
Okay.
Mike wants to go for a beer. You
You
know,
wanna
you might have
spell it?
somebody.
Gentlemen.
You may have somebody who doesn't drink.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was the criteria I was using, but I'm gonna stick with it.
Either way.
So these are people, Blue Jays,
Yeah.
or ex-Blue Jays,
Any
that I
era.
would like to have for me that I would like to have a beer with.
And so, Mike, you're kicking it off.
I'm kicking it off.
You get first pick here.
My first pick, without hesitation, is longtime Blue Jay manager John Gibbons.
Great choice. Great choice.
I imagine he'd be happy to have a beer or two in that hour, and
Yep.
I just think everybody would like to have a beer with John Gibbons, so I'd like to be first in line for that.
I think that's a fantastic choice. My choice to hang out, have a beer was a Jay I loved as a kid, Tony Fernandez. I'm taking Tony Fernandez.
He doesn't drink. Or he didn't drink.
You said beer. I never said beer. I just want to hang out with.
I want
to hang out with
you
Tony
said
Fernandez.
I want to have a beer with him, though. You just
You
said
did.
But I want to have a beer beside him.
Beside it.
You want him to sit there and watch you drink.
Listen, I'm hanging out with Tony Fernandez.
It might be fun to see if you could get him to drink a beer, too.
In my fantasy, he's
love
not
it.
even alive.
I know, I love
So
him.
my fantasy is he and I just go for a walk.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's nice.
Love Tony.
A few grounders.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe that's it.
My favorite Blue Jay ever.
Oh, why not?
He's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this may seem easy, but I think hanging out with Vladdy would be really fun.
Okay.
I'm going to pick Vladdy. It may be an obvious pick, but sometimes that's a great thing. He seems like a really enthusiastic, fun guy, enthusiastic, and I think it'd be great to hang out with him for an hour.
Good choice.
An hour.
For an hour.
Just an hour.
Okay, so this is going to be a controversial one. Again,
Sure.
for an hour,
Yeah.
Roger Clemens.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
I would love to spend an hour with Roger Clemens. Imagine what you could, if I could inject him with sodium pentothal while we're having that hour together, that would be great too.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things I'd like to talk to Roger Clemens about.
Well, all right. Well, you picked a Jay who was a manager. I'll take one that was a manager, although for a little more brief time. Buck Martinez.
Yeah,
I'm
he's
going to have
on
a
my
beer with Buck Martinez. And he'll have great stories.
You know what?
And that's
really
gonna
does.
be- Yeah.
Mike Trout.
No problem, man. I like. By the way, I like that as Buck gets older and closer to retirement, he's getting saltier and saltier,
Yeah. I
love
and he
that.
has less and less time for nonsense.
No.
It's so great.
Salty Buck's the best Buck.
Salty Buck is by far the best Buck. I know he's trying to be diplomatic at times, but I love that he's more and more like fed up with
Oh, yeah.
nonsense
It's fantastic.
in the game. It's
He
so
ain't
great.
got no time for
I
that.
want to have a beer with Salty Buck.
Yeah, awesome.
I'm going to have a beer, hang out with Carlos Delgado.
Nice choice.
Seems like a really good guy. You
Yes.
know, strong stance,
Class
social
dude.
issues, classy guy. I think that he would
Hung
be,
out.
He used to frequent.
Yeah, my buddy
this-
Ben Carlson used to see him at jazz clubs all the time.
and salsa
Yeah.
clubs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, okay, so we'll go to a jazz
Yeah.
club.
Hey,
Well,
Matt, no, you're going to go have some salt. You're going to dance salsa.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
We used to rep a salsa night at a bar downtown. He used to come every Sunday.
Yeah.
Big cigar.
Yeah.
Oh,
entourage
man,
of
amazing.
people.
Ben said he would
Had a
play at,
blast.
what's the jazz club on the east side there, but he'd play and he'd come there all the
Yeah.
time. He'd see him downtown.
Yeah.
He was a really nice guy and unaffected.
Yeah.
Good pick, Matt.
Frank, by the end
Matt.
of the hour, how good of a salsa dancer am I? Like, I just have an hour.
You will be able to.
Not as good as your free throws.
You'll be able to get through
Yeah.
song, no problem.
Okay,
The
okay,
basics
I'm down
in
for
an
it.
hour? Oh yeah,
Okay.
super easy.
Okay. Next former Jay I'd
Yeah.
like to have a beer with,
Yeah.
David Cohn.
David Cohn.
Seems
All
like
right.
a great guy. I think he's got a lot of stories. I think he misbehaved a lot in the pre-cell phone era, was up to some fun and good time. Seems like a great guy, very articulate. I think he'd be a lot of fun to share stories with.
I'm going to say something.
Mhm.
This is all the setup for this. But when I was performing at Second City and I would go to Chicago, they used to say there was different levels of hanging out with people. And that there were some people that would say, hey, we need to calm down because we're too loud. And there were some people you'd say, hey, we need to calm down. We're going to get thrown out of this bar. And then Chris Farley was, we need to calm down. We're going to get arrested. So my version of the Jay, who's probably going to get you arrested, is David Wells.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So for the
about
1
that.
hour, I
Yeah.
think I could hang with him, but then I'm probably going to get into real trouble
I
with
actually,
that guy.
we're not going to tell our host about this, but I made a list of Jays I'd like not to have a beer with. And
Okay.
David Wells was number one.
Whoa.
Just to
Okay.
play the
Okay,
opposite side.
so he and I got to think of someone who
Yeah.
you don't want to have a beer
So
with.
don't call Mike for that.
No, I'm not going to
hangout.
pick. He's already been taken, so
Yeah.
I'll take somebody else. But I really,
That is your one guy.
I would not like to have.
Well, no, that's fine. We can.
Yeah, totally.
That you've got. That's your guy. But we can break it right here and say, Matt, do you have a Jay that you would not want to have a beer with?
I probably wouldn't. I'd probably.
no. So the answer is no.
Well, I got to think about it for a second. I got to think about it
Matt
for a
wants to
second.
take the
All
other.
right.
The other two I had were Billy Koch
Yeah.
and Josh Donaldson.
I had Shea Hildebrand.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Yeah.
I don't know if I'd vibe with Brett Laurie.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah, Brett
good one.
Laura's
Yeah,
good.
no, good
And
one.
I heard who's your you had Koch and who? And
Who?
you had Koch and who?
Donaldson
Yeah.
and David Wells.
I heard Schoenweiss was a real prick.
Really?
Yeah,
What a weird thing.
I know Scott Schoenweiss is not.
Nobody.
The only thing they ever saw, but like not apparently not that great a guy, allegedly.
Allegedly.
But he burned
Friend
a
of the
fan.
show.
He burned a fan. Really funny. Really funny. Burned them up. I was near the bullpen, Jay's bullpen, and someone was riding them like crazy, like how crap he was. Oh, see, I think he went to Duke, which is gross. But anyway, he's guys riding. Hey, Sean Weiss. So Sean Weiss turns around and goes, "Hey, aren't you the guy that pumps my gas?" This is burn on the kid. I was like, it's pretty funny, like,
Nailed it.
Yeah, he did. The crowd loved it.
Yeah.
Yep. But anyway, I think he might be on that list. Yeah, Shea Hildebrand probably. I don't know. BJ Ryan always rubbed me the wrong
Oh,
way.
I have him on. I'd want to have.
Oh shit, he might be coming around.
Hey, let's
get back onto the
I
trade.
gotta have a curiosity about this too, right? Like it's not necessarily. I don't want to be friends necessarily.
Sure.
I don't want to be friends with Clemens necessarily, but
Sure.
I do
No,
want to
sure.
spend an hour talking. So where are we? I have
Okay,
three
so
picks.
Matt's
Sandy,
still working on who doesn't want to have a beer with. Is that-
No, I mean there are some. Okay, Sandy just picked David
Yeah.
Wells.
Thank you.
So
Thank
it's you
you.
now.
We're
It is
looking
you.
at people we
Yes.
want to have
This
a beer
is your
with.
third pick.
Yes, your
My
third
pick,
now.
or hang out with for an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Munenori Kawasaki.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Definitely.
That
on the
guy-
list.
You're disqualified.
That guy seems just unbridled enthusiasm. Just so
Sure.
much fun.
Sure.
He's on my list of guys I
Is
would
he-
not want
is
to
he-
have.
Come on.
Is he?
Oh, Mike.
How can you not want to hang with Kawasaki?
Is he in the world of entertainment now? Is he retired now?
I don't
Like,
really
no
know. I don't really know. But
don't know.
I had him on my list, my long list. But
you know what? I'll ask him.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll ask him when we're hanging out.
Ding dong.
Okay. I have next on my list, friend of the show.
Yeah.
I have Jose Cruz Jr.
Yeah. Good choice.
Sure, yeah,
Great
he
guy.
was
He was
on there for
great,
sure.
smart. I was really impressed by his
Yep.
intellect and ability to sort of think deeply.
Yep.
He seemed like a really cool guy. So that's a one I'd actually like to be better friends with. as opposed
I've
to
had
Clemens.
beers with him, so I took myself off that list because
Fair
I felt like this is people you want to have. And
Yeah.
Mike, that is a good choice.
Okay, good.
That's a very good choice. Great guy. Friend of the show, of course, as you said,
Yes,
which is
indeed.
fantastic. I'm going to pick this guy because when I was a kid, he let me put his glove. He gave me his glove. No, when I was a kid, he said, "Kid, you want to put my glove on?" Jesse Barfield.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Yeah. He's such a sweet guy, and I see him all the time now, and I often think, does he remember them? No, I don't think he remembers the moment he gave me his glove. But I often think like that guy would
Does
be
seem
the
like a
best
great guy, too,
Great
yeah.
guy. He was great to a kid. He was great to me as a kid. Okay?
Second greatest throwing arm in right field history.
To Clemente?
Maybe
Possibly, yeah.
if he had played anywhere.
Dewey, Dwight Evans.
Yeah. There's a few, but he's
Jeez.
right there. He's certainly. I think he's tied for second
Okay.
with a couple other.
I mean, I like those other, like Vladdy Senior.
Yeah.
Oof.
Ichiro. Like
Woof.
there's
Yeah,
some
Rich. Oh, Ichiro,
poses.
great choice.
Jesse was. Yeah, I remember going to
No.
Exhibition Stadium, and you'd hope when they had a guy at second, you'd hope they'd get a hit to right field,
Yeah.
so that they would send the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're like, please.
And even
let us-
Batista in his prime.
Yeah,
Batista
yeah.
before he hurt his arm
Yeah.
was like same kind
Yeah.
of thing. You're just like, let's see it. You know?
But you'd be like, come on,
Jesse.
send him.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So we can see that throw.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
Okay, Matt.
How about he's gone now,
No.
but how about Roy Halladay?
Oh, sure. Got real quiet, but sure.
We're not,
You know,
You
he
sounded
knows
so
the
mellow.
game.
You sounded like you wanted to go to his, I'm sorry to say, funeral for an hour. It
No,
sounded very sad.
I just
sounded
waiting.
very sad.
I'm just waiting for one of you guys to say something I didn't know about him, and but I think that he's he knows a lot
I'm
about
not
the
gonna
game.
do
He's
that.
probably a pretty interesting guy.
Yeah,
or,
why not?
I remember being very disappointed one year when you used to still buy. I used to buy the program at the
Yeah.
Dome 25 years ago or whatever, and it had like profiles of all the players and I remember being really disappointed because Roy Halladay's favorite band was Phil Collins and Genesis.
Wow.
Okay.
I was like,
Oh,
I
wow.
can't-
Yeah, that's tough.
I can't cheer for them anymore.
That's
I left.
yeah, that's it.
I just went home.
I cried. Cried the whole
I
way
just remember
home.
being like, oh,
I feel better. Like
Yeah.
I feel like while we're having our beer, I don't mind listening to Phil
Yeah.
Collins and Genesis.
Well.
Mike, that would be a deal breaker for you.
no. Well, we wouldn't last more than an hour.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Because after a while I'd have to go.
Okay.
Sure.
Fair enough.
Sure. That's a tough one to see that.
Yeah,
That's a tough one to
It
see.
is, It is. It broke my heart. Anyway,
Yeah.
okay. This is the last round, right?
That's
one,
it.
One more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What last Blue Jay? I can't believe we all haven't said this guy yet. Mark Burley
Oh, that's a good one.
just seems like
Yeah.
such a cool dude. He seems like a guy who would drink beer. So chill. I love a guy who never threw the ball more than 85 miles an hour and was like pitched in the majors for 15 years. Love that guy.
this is tough because now you're on the last pick, and there's a lot of guys thinking about the
There's a lot of guys,
generation and what this guy would
I'd
be
be
like.
curious about, yeah.
But I'm going to go with Ernie Witt. I think Ernie Witt would have some good
classic.
stories. Been around a long time, also managed, obviously, and played for Team Canada, things like that.
Managed
and,
Team Canada for a long time.
Yeah, and just I think Ernie Witt would have some great stories
Sure he
and
would.
nice generation of guys that he want to tell stories about, and that are kind of like my second or third choices even in here. I didn't pick, but played with Ernie Witt. I'd love to know about. So he's my last pick.
Great.
Okay, my last pick. I admittedly don't know a lot about this guy. You guys aren't going to like the pick. It's Wes Parsons. So he started the last.
He played for the Cleveland Spiders.
No, he started the last Jays game this season against Tampa. I went to this game. He got lit up hard.
Yeah.
So he gave up
talk to him.
10 hits and 9 earned
Yeah, I remember
runs
the game,
in 4 innings.
Yeah.
Oh,
and he kept going out there. I think he deserves a drink. We're gonna go for a drink. I'm buying.
Is he old enough to drink? How old is this kid?
Yeah,
Who
he's
you hanging out with, children?
He was a longtime minor league veteran who got.
Yeah, he was
Okay.
with,
Okay.
Atlanta
Bell
before
there.
or
All
something.
right.
Like he has like a 1-4 record. In
You
the
dig deep, man.
But I think partly a joke, but not really. Like it would be really interesting to like go out after that, like just to hear what that's like. Like what it's like to keep going out. Like you get shelled.
Well,
And
and to have your lifelong dream kind of come to happen, and then it didn't
Goes
go
badly.
well, and the Jays I think immediately released him.
yeah.
yeah,
Like
okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's never going to pitch again for them.
No.
It was like a one-time thing.
Yeah.
They needed a guy, and they wanted to rest everybody else for the playoffs.
Shit.
I want to.
I'm not going to bring that up at the.
Well, interesting pick. I think sometimes at this point in the draft we'll say, here's some of the guys I would have picked, but I want to hold on to
Yeah.
those because I think when we get our judge on here, let's get that opened up at the end, and maybe he'll point at a few that we didn't pick, and let's hear those for the
sure.
first time. Does that sound good, Matt?
Yeah, that sounds great, Sandy.
Mike's good.
Do we want to check
Frank,
Wes
you wanna-
I
Parsons
got
first?
2 that I want to save. For
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
Frank's
Okay.
in, yeah.
Yeah, Frank. Okay.
After?
Okay. You can. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
af-
you're not going to come with us with the judge, so.
No, I know.
Geez, that's a tough call. When does Frank tell us his 2? What the heck? Frank, tell us your 2.
Tell us your
Paul
Right now.
Molitor
Yeah.
Yeah.
or first baseman Olerud.
I
Yeah,
had a
John
little bit
Olerud.
of- yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
They were the smoothest guys,
Yeah.
consistent,
Yeah.
total professionals.
Frank,
just to kind of
I want to tell you, when we get to our judge,
I like to drink up.
if these names come up,
Ah, I
Hey,
like
okay.
that. Well done.
yeah, drink up. Very good. If we get to the draft
I like to
and
drink up.
and those names are said,
Yes.
you get a beer for each of those names. That's
Oh, that's
I think
great.
right. So Frank's gonna be rewarded.
That's right.
Friends, let's go and get judged. All right, we are very excited because it's New Year's Eve, and a lot of things happen in sports on New Year's Eve. But we wanted to focus on bringing someone back who had been on the show last year. It was on the show last year during the holidays. We were on the New Year's Eve episode, and that was the December 25th show last year, the Christmas episode. This gentleman has agreed to come back, which we're always surprised by, which is so great. And we know the Ford Frick Award nominee, NCAA basketball announced, of course, baseball, lots of baseball over the years, more specifically Blue Jays baseball now. A lot of accomplishments, and we could go into the intro, but Dan Shulman is here. And Dan, I want to ask you, when you hear these intros, what is something that people miss, or you would love it if they just threw it in there randomly in an intro to you that people don't know?
So probably the most random thing that I've done, well, I'll give you, like, professionally, I'll give you a couple of random things. The first thing one of the things I did for the predecessor of the Fan, CJCL, back in its infancy in the early 90s, is we actually carried remember the Molson Indy used to be in Toronto, right down through the streets down by the X and all that. So I was the pit reporter one time. Now, if my car doesn't start, there's no chance I'm figuring it out. If I get a flat tire, there's no chance I'm figuring, like, I am the least car person in the world. But back in 1991 or 2 or something, I was the pit reporter, and with technology being what it was, I had a cassette recorder, a microphone with a little cassette recorder, and Paul Tracy or somebody would get knocked out of the race, and my job was to run up to him and say, Paul, what happened? And he would tell me what happened, and then I would run to a trailer with the cassette, give them the cassette, get a new blank one back from them, run back to the pits, and just do it all over again. And I will not be, never was, like, qualified to do that. But all I had to do was, hey, fill in the blank. What happened? And they tell me why they crashed. So that was, and if I was wearing any kind of, like, fireproof outfit. I don't remember that. No, I don't remember ever being fitted for that or anything, but I was running around down in the pits. The other thing on a different note is like, and nobody remembers this, is I actually called hockey at an Olympics for CTV.
Yeah.
And nobody knows this. 1994. So as you guys know, CBC generally has been driving the truck for the Olympics for decades. But in 1992 and 94 only, CTV had it. And CTV didn't really have a stable of people to broadcast games. So I was probably like too new on the scene in 92. Nothing happened there. But in 94, you guys know John Shannon, or know the name John Shannon, I'm sure. And John Shannon at the time was heading up CTV's Olympic hiring, and he hired me to do hockey. So I was the number 2 guy. The late, great Don Chevrier was the number 1 guy. He did all the Canada games. I did all the non-Canada games. So this was the Peter Forsberg, remember that goal? Korea was playing for Canada and all that. And I didn't do that. I did, Norway, Finland, and I did the Czechs against the Swedes or whatever. But it was amazingly cool. I'd never been to Europe. I had never been to Europe in any capacity. I had certainly never called hockey at an Olympics inside a mountain, which they dug the center of it out of and built a hockey rink in the middle of it. The town is called Uvik. Yeah. And it was one of the most, somewhere back here is a little, here, hang on. Here's one of my little mementos. These were like 2 of the mascots these are the 2 mascots from the 1994 Winter Olympics.
And that was Lillehammer, right?
Kept in my house all these years, amazingly enough. But that'd probably be something. Yeah, that's something that people don't know very much, I would say.
Very nice, very nice. Well, that's what I was thinking about. It's like you get all these intros over and over again. People should just randomly throw in other things too, just little things to see that everyone's listening, even especially if you're listening to what that intro is.
Yeah, I mean, you can say I missed a chance to put my high school water polo team into the city finals back in 1984, but we don't need to talk about. Shot it wide in extra time. Would have won the game, but shot it wide. Yeah, I'm over it.
And water polo is a notoriously dirty sport, though, right? Isn't that like
notorious? As dirty as you think it is way worse than that.
Really?
Yeah.
It's by far the sport that I played that I love the most. It's by far the dirtiest sport that I ever played. My dad was a dentist, and I was probably the only. You need a mouth guard for several obvious reasons. So, I could say I probably had the best mouth guard in the league because my dad was a dentist and he made it for me. But other than that, you're just wearing like a beanie and a Speedo. There's not a whole lot of protection down there. So, but I loved it. It was great. I wish, I wasn't very, I was all right, but I wish I had played more of it, started earlier, tried to take it further, that sort of thing. But, I'm probably as qualified. I doubt any other announcers in Canada. Like, I'm probably qualified to call water polo. Nobody's ever asked me to call water polo, but I could probably do that.
This is the start of it, right? This gets in the right ears. You're going to be calling water polo the next Olympics for sure.
You're out in the universe.
Yeah. I'm still stuck on this pit reporter thing because I'm picturing the car pulls in, they go for the tires, you just run up to the window. Hey, can we talk about? And they're like, get out of the way, get out of the way.
Yeah, mostly it was after guys got knocked out of the race. That was my job. So they're really in the mood to talk to a big, goofy, lanky guy with a tape recorder who, no matter what they could have said, I could have said, hey, what happened, Matt? What happened there? And he could have said something in another language, and I would have went, great, thanks very much, and then just run back to the trailer with it. All I was thinking about was run the cassette back to the trailer because that's how the technology worked then.
Nod like you know what they're saying, right? That's the important thing.
Oh yeah.
Get that Wilco tape back there as fast as possible.
Yeah.
So we wanted to jump into this because obviously Blue Jays focused this time, because last time we did NCAA basketball, we promised let's have you back. Let's do the Blue Jays, and we'll get you to challenge us as to what the draft should be. So you've come up with, give me a drafted team of 5 Blue Jays that specifically you would want to spend an hour with. So this is like, you wouldn't want to go on a giant road trip. You don't need to do just a quick, hi, hey, how's it going? It's a hour with this.
Just hang with,
hang with this person.
Yeah, no, when we were talking before, and I can't remember who it was because we were all talking quickly, but one of you said drink with. Now, I didn't say drink with when we came up with this. So I left some That was Mike? Okay. So
it's my fault.
I left some latitude here. This can be whatever you want. So, it could be, hey, that guy's a superstar. I want to pick his brain about that big moment. Or it can be, boy, that guy looks like fun to have beers with. So I left it up to you guys to decide how you wanted to do this.
And that was debated because because Mike kicked off with have a beer with, and well, not necessarily have a beer with, and some of the guys don't drink, and then some of those guys really enjoy it.
Yeah.
So we'll kick them out. We're gonna throw it, and we're doing this a little differently as you requested too. So we're gonna show them out there like one at a time. Like, here's my person. What do you think? Quick feedback. We'll go through everybody. Mike, you picked first, and you can. I don't think Mike, we necessarily have to say your first pick, but one of the people that are your 5. Who do you think?
Mike, I will do my first.
Hold on, Mike. Before you go, I want to jump in for once. Let me call a quick timeout here. So I'm going to add a wrinkle because you guys have put a lot of pressure on me. I've got to pick who won, by the way. Which one of you 3 won the last time we did this?
Oh, last time we did this,
the college
basketball. I think
it wasn't me because I picked a guy I made a bad pick. I think probably Matt. He usually wins.
It wasn't Sandy. I know it wasn't Sandy. So
probably not me. I
had Carmelo Anthony or something, and he was kind of like the best pick.
I have our archives in front of me, friends.
I shouldn't even have known. I don't want that to,
This is a serious archive going into.
Okay.
It was NCAA basketball. Matt did win
that one. Okay.
Draft. Yes, Matt did.
So I put together a list of myself myself of 10 guys. I'm not going to tell you who they are, but at the end there will be if one of you guys gets, if you get one or two of my guys. Do you guys all know each other's? Like, none of you have picked the same.
No, we know each other's. Yeah, we do.
Okay, so if somebody picks one of my guys, I can say it right there. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I've got 10 guys. The oldest broke in the late 70s.
Okay.
And it goes right up until the current day, and they're not all stars. In fact, most of them are not stars. But if one of you gets one or more of mine, special consideration will be given to that.
I love this.
That's a great idea. That's really good. Okay, I'll tell you, I went first, and my first pick is, I'm doing it wrong already, but he wasn't even a player. I picked John Gibbons. Now, I will add that my criteria, which again you didn't say, was who do you want to have a beer with for an hour? And he was the first person who came to mind. You have a lot more insider knowledge of these guys maybe than we do, but he just seemed like a guy I would that hour would go quickly, I think.
Oh, it would. Well, it's an outstanding pick, and I will say right off the bat, no pun intended. So I've only got players here, but that's fine that you did that. I wish I had thought of that. So I have never had a beer with Gibby. I would love to have a beer with Gibby. I came back to do the Jays in 2016, and he was still there, but I was only doing like 30 games a year, the first 2 games. I didn't get to know Gibby nearly as well as I got to know Charlie Montoyo, or as I know John Schneider, or even as I knew Cito Gaston back in the day. So one of my wishes was that I had gotten back a little earlier, or Gibby had lasted a little bit longer. It's a great pick. He is as entertaining and funny. And if you like a guy who doesn't hold back and just tells you what's on his mind, that's your guy. I will tell you this: when we would be in his office, before the game talking baseball, inevitably after a minute and a half, it would get into politics a lot. He is he has very strong political views, and he's happy to share those with people. So I'm assuming when I gave you this, I'm assuming that whoever you're spending the hour with, he's not going to say, well, I can't tell you about that, or no comment. Like, we're assuming there's truth serum here, but also
that's what I was just going to say. I'm assuming we can inject them with sodium pentothal at some point.
Absolutely.
Before it starts, and then we get the straight dope for an hour.
Absolutely right. So that
take it into account too. Yeah,
that's an outstanding pick. That's like a top shelf pick there. Very strong out of the gate.
Matt, are you second, or was I second? I can't remember.
You're second, Sandy.
Okay, excellent. Okay. All right, Gibbons strong out of the gate. I'm switching it up a little bit. I am going to obviously I'll jump out for a player. And this was a guy that when I was a kid, he let me wear his glove once at a Jays game. So I always loved this guy, Jesse Barfield.
Jesse Barfield. A very good choice. Not on my list. Considered him. I know Jesse a little bit. So the first thing I think of with Jesse is as strong an outfield arm as any of us has ever seen. Very, very personable. I've done a couple of events with Jesse, like little corporate things or something like that. Super talkative, super friendly, smiley, like exactly as you think he would be. I think Mike would laugh more in his hour with Gibby than you would with Jesse, but I think you would get great stories. And
they're great.
The great thing is, I mean, if you wanted stories about George Bell and Lloyd Mosby, like who better to go talk to than Jesse Barfield, right? So I think you would go home and just have a good feeling inside and say, man, that was fun. He's a really good guy. So very strong as well.
Nice. Matt, who you got?
I went contemporary. I picked Vladdy. I picked Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He looks like he's having fun all the time,
Yeah, so I've never seen Vladdy on Truth Serum or sodium pentothal, to my knowledge, anyway. So it's a great pick because he's he's so compelling and he's so popular and he's so talented and all that. He doesn't, and maybe some of it is language, but he kind of plays things closer to the vest. But again, if you're kicking back with sodium pentothal for an hour, I think you'd get a lot of stuff. I will tell you this. The smile and the like to have fun and all that's real. And you guys see it on the field. You saw it with Teoscar Hernandez and Lourdes Gurriel when they were here. And I see it in the clubhouse all the time with a bunch of his buddies. It's funny because so I have 2 current Blue Jays on the list. And Vladdy's name went through my head, but I didn't stop for long to think about him. And maybe that's on me because again, I should have put more thought into the sodium pentothal angle of this of this whole thing. But I think he would have wonderful stories, whether they were about his dad.
Yeah.
I think if I were sitting with Vladdy for an hour, I would just say to him, "So, what do you talk about with that?" Like he talks to everybody when they get to first base, and that's how he'd be good for that hour, right? Because he is probably the most talkative guy on the team. So very strong, and 2 of these 3 I never saw coming. So, maybe there's a bit of a surprise, give a little points for surprise factor too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. My next one, and this is a big sodium pentothal one, is Roger Clemens.
Oh, wow. That's some heavy duty stuff now.
Well, yeah, I mean, if
that escalated quickly.
Yeah, it did. And I know we don't, it's hard to consider him a Blue Jay per se. I understand that, but he did have 2 pretty amazing years here. So I'm counting him. I just think if I could ask him the truth about a lot of things for an hour, or maybe he gets tipsy enough to start telling me some things. I don't know. Yeah. I'm imagining. It just seemed like there'd be a lot of stories in there that would be interesting. I'm sure he's probably not a great, the debate would rage about what a guy he's like to drink with, but
right. So
I thought
he's not so he was a Blue Jay for 2 years, as you guys know. So, and I would never describe him as a gregarious personality, right? Although, and this goes back to my TSN years. I was doing the games on TSN back when he was here in 97 and 98. Yeah. And he was great to us. So back in those days, as you guys know, good pitchers would complete games often. And if Roger ever completed the game, he would stop, and whoever, whether it was with a reporter or maybe just put a headset on, like he would do a post-game interview. Like he would just do it all the time. He was really, really good to us, and that was great. I never felt like I got to know him at all over the 2 years. Never felt like I got close. The one quasi-exception, I guess when you do some, the kind of stuff that I do, every now and again, you just find yourself in random situations that you don't anticipate. Again, I was asked to MC an event. It was an evening event, corporate sponsors or something like that. I don't remember for what or where. Well, I kind of remember where. It was at a fancy, not even a pool hall, like that's doing it a disservice, like a really high-end bar that had a bunch of pool tables in it, like a lot of pool tables in it. And so I remember getting there, and Roger came in a couple of minutes later. And the 2 things I remember, he didn't know anybody else there. He didn't know a single person other than me. So he kind of like attached himself to me for part of that night because he didn't know who else to talk to. And I guess he'd rather talk to somebody he kind of knew and kind of didn't, kind of put up with than everybody else who was like, Roger, Roger, Roger. The other thing I remember is I spilled my beer on one of the pool tables. That was there. I knocked it with my microphone or something. So they never had me back. That was the only time I was there.
New Year's Eve show. That's perfect for the New Year's Eve show.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. But he'd be interesting. Again, if you could really, but everybody's a different kind of storyteller too, even if you're getting the truth from him. It's an interesting pick, but I don't know what kind of I wonder if you'd walk out of there feeling a little a little hollow inside, you know.
Well, he
At the
was.
end of it. I'm not really sure.
He put out a big blast at one point months ago that he wanted, hey, I want to be on more podcasts. Tell me about your podcast. I'll come on your podcast. He did. And we talked to Allison Footer about it. And Allison, who's not as big a fan as Clemens, just said he just wants to be anywhere in front of anybody and he'll talk about anything. So which I thought was kind of not, it was sort of what you're saying, counter to what I thought of him would be a little more like withdrawn than that.
Yeah. And then maybe after you're out of the limelight, guys miss the limelight a little bit. I'm not sure. So.
If you ever want to watch a really uncomfortable clip, he was the first ever guest on Off the Record on TSN.
Whoa, wow.
Landsberg show. He and Taller Cranston were the two first guests on the first day. And if you want to watch an uncomfortable pairing, it's fantastic. It's really good. They are not two men who should spend a lot of time together.
Interesting. All right. I'm sure I can find that on YouTube somewhere.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
I'll tell you, what you're talking about Vladdy at first base. I remembered I asked Vladdy who his favorite person he ever has at first base. He doesn't get him very often, but he loves Acuna. He said Acuna is the most fun on first. And
they're good buddies. You can there was a game this year where Acuna was messing with Vladdy. I think he tried to grab his glove off his hand when Vladdy had the ball in it or something, which is actually against the rules. But they're just like two kids over there. So. Yeah, I mean, Vladdy is as big of a kid as you think he is. He just loves to have fun.
I tried to add one. The next question was going to be who's the worst person out at first, and the Jay said you can't ask that question. All right, my second choice, which was when we said this person doesn't drink, they wouldn't have a beer, but they'd hang out, was childhood. Again, going back to a guy I loved seeing play, who's not with us anymore. Tony Fernandez was my choice.
I loved Tony Fernandez, and I seriously, Tony, if my list of 10 had been 12, Tony Fernandez would have been on there, I think. So I have an incredible soft spot for Tony Fernandez. Got to know him fairly well during my time with TSN, my first time around with the Jays. So he was obviously, I think he was there 4 different times with the Jays, if I'm not mistaken. So, you know, when he first came up in 83, 84, I was a teenager then, so didn't see him. But I saw him later in his career. Just, very religious guy, as you know, sincere and earnest and humble and kind. That's the Tony Fernandez that I knew. And I didn't know him very well. Again, he wasn't the kind to walk by you and say, hey, so how was your weekend? What'd you do yesterday? And so, but if you talk to him, he would sit and talk and give you everything he had. I don't know that he would crack jokes and make you laugh, but I think you'd walk out of there just absolutely having loved him. I think he would tell great stories, and he was such a special player. And unfortunately, I think he's a player that doesn't get remembered, especially outside Toronto, as much as he should for the talent that he was.
I agree with that. Yeah. Well, I've got a few entertaining people coming up, so we'll just hold on.
Okay, good.
Matt, who you got?
Are you now at the end? You guys will give me your list again, like five, because I'm not going to remember exactly who.
No, we will. For
sure. No, Dan, we're not doing that.
I'm sticking with fun again. I want to smile on my face, and I'm picking Munenori Kawasaki.
Also, I considered him, but I wondered if after 15 minutes I'd say, we're done.
Thank you.
But hilarious, right? Now, I was not called. I don't think I was back when I think he was gone just before I came back. But I've seen the clips and I know the personality and all that, and super funny and. Yes, outgoing, and the stories would come a mile a minute. So I think you would laugh and laugh. I like it, if I were to mix Tony Fernandez and Munenori Kawasaki together, could I get like 30 minutes of the Kawasaki humor, but then could I get 30 minutes of really great, heartwarming Tony Fernandez stories? If we could blend those two guys together, I think we'd have a perfect person right there.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, definitely entertainment points. Munenori would score high. So.
Sure. Dan, I'm doing myself a disservice with these picks. I realize I'm picking guys that are like from that pocket of time when you weren't in Toronto doing Jays games, but whatever. My next pick is Mark Burley, who just seemed like the most salt of the earth, unaffected, great, really good player for a long time.
So it's interesting you say that. So I do. So I guess in my world, there are 4 Blue Jay eras: before I became a broadcaster, my first time around, in between, my second time around. And I thought about the in between. So I've got one guy who was there only one of the only one of the 10 was from the in between time. But you guys have made your picks already, so it is what it is. Mark Burley, I think, would be really interesting. I think my first question to Mark, because Mark Burley had a couple of pit bulls, right? And Ontario wouldn't let him bring pit bulls up. Right. And I think if you wanted to get him going, you could say, get this man a drink. And so why didn't they let you bring your dogs up? And he would just go, I think you'd get 20 minutes out of that probably. But everybody I know loved having him as a teammate. Mm-hmm. Every broadcaster I know loved him because it's the fastest games in the last 30 years. Yeah. For two reasons. He never shook the catcher off. And as soon as he got the sign, he threw the ball. He was like, why would I do it any other way? But I think he'd be great. I think he's that sweet spot between funny and great stories where you'd get a blend of both. And I don't know this, but he also strikes me as one of those guys where everybody in baseball loves him. Like he'd be friends with everybody. Yeah. And so I think whoever you asked him a question about, or whatever situation you asked him about, I think he'd have great recall and great connections and great stories. So that's a good.
I think so too. Maybe he could explain the lure of country music to me too while we talked.
Well, he could try with me. He's not going to get anywhere on that.
No, I don't even work with me either. But
I've got to throw some fun in my team here. I believe fun, hopefully. David Wells.
David Wells, interesting one. And I had a feeling one of you guys was going to mention that. So without going into details, David Wells and I didn't really get along very well.
Oh, interesting. All right.
I said something that he didn't like, and we just never quite got around that. So
that's me and Matt.
I think, again, from the fun perspective, you'd get unbelievable stories. I really think you would. He would not be shy, and he would be like Gibby in the sense that I don't even think you'd need the sodium pentothal. I think it would just fly. So I think it's a great pick, but it's a challenging one for me because definitely. I was very young. I was, 20. I was in radio still. I wasn't even doing the games on TV, and I said something he didn't like, and I could have phrased it a little differently, but he could have let time heal wounds a little better, maybe. Who knows? Whatever. But great competitor, and another guy like Burley, who I'm sure knew. I mean, he pitched till he was 44 years old or something like that. So another guy who would have stories about everybody and everything. Perfect game and playoffs and throwing the ball down the left field line when Cito tried to took him out of the game. And, he'd have lots of great stories. So I think that'd be the kind of hour where you would say, like, hang on, I'm typing this into my phone, say that again. Because he would say so many things that would be funny.
Dan, I think you need an hour with David Wells to heal the heart. You guys it's a healing process here.
Okay.
You'll sit down and just get this.
All right.
Maybe like a Dr. Phil kind of thing.
I'm open to that. Yeah.
Okay. Maddie, what do you got?
I'm sitting down for a drink and maybe a little jazz with Carlos Delgado.
Oh, another guy I considered, very, very strongly considered. So when I started doing Blue Jay games, it was 1995. And I won't mention all of the others because one of them is on my list, but there was a group of 7 or 8 Blue Jays who were unbelievably good to me. I was very young and raw and green and didn't even know what I didn't even know. Carlos came up. Well, he actually came up in 93 for a cup of coffee, I think, came up at the beginning of 94, sent down, came back up, but established himself, I think, in 95. 95 was my first year. And Carlos was great. If we were doing a competition about, what Blue Jay in history has the best smile, it's over. It's Carlos. And I've done a couple of things with him during COVID. We did a couple of Zoom things, and he comes back every now and again for charitable purposes or ambassador kind of appearances. And he's great. He's charming and thoughtful. And he'll say to you, how's your family doing? What's going on with your children now? And it's a great choice. And I'm kind of regretting not having him on my list of 10. So I'm kind of bending my rules here a little bit for Matt right now. But I think Delgado would be a sensational hour. He's a pretty special guy. And I don't know that he ever, had a chance to make the Hall of Fame, but he certainly should have hung around on the ballot more than the 1 year. I think he only got 3% of the vote or whatever and got booted off the ballot. he was a great player, and I thought he represented the Blue Jays incredibly well in his time here. And I wish, had things gone differently, that, you know, and this doesn't happen anymore, but he'd have been a wonderful, I only played for one team kind of guy, you know, if he had spent his whole career here in Toronto. So very strong there for Matt, very strong.
I agree with that. Yeah, I'm regretting not picking him now. My next pick is sort of, to me, the opposite side of the coin from David Wells. I think he'd have all the great stories, and he had lived quite a rich life too, but he just seems like a better guy, and that's David Cohn.
I love David Cohn. He's not on my list. I did consider David Cohn. I've gotten to know Coney. Everybody calls him Coney. So he's a broadcaster for the Yankees, as you guys undoubtedly know. And whenever the Blue Jays play the Yankees, he's there, and he'll come in and talk to me and Buck, or me and Joe, or whatever, or I'll go into their booth and talk to him and Michael Kay or Paul O'Neill or whoever's there. And Cohn is fascinating, a fascinating guy.
Yeah.
He could, I think in Toronto right now, he could, you know, he's not a big imposing guy, right? He's like 5'11", 6 feet, not a big dude. Maybe he's a little bigger than that, but he could walk down the street. Nobody would know who he is. And then you would say, you know, that's David Cohn. Like, that guy was an unbelievable pitcher for another perfect game guy, right? Yeah, another perfect game. You know, great pitcher here, great pitcher in New York, and all that sort of stuff. He would have great stories. What I love best about him, he'll come in and you can, I mean, you ask him a baseball question and he'll give you the great answers. I mean, he'll give you a 3-minute answer about stuff. And I think back in his playing days, I think Coney knew how to have a good time, and if you wanted some good stories, he'd have some good stories too, I think. So but he's a wonderful guy. He's one of the things I look forward to the most whenever the Blue Jays play the Yankees. And I think he's the kind of guy where you'd say, can we get 30 more minutes? Like, that's so good. And because he could talk to you about so many different things. You could do a heavy duty, you know, hardcore nuts and bolts pitching mechanics thing, and he could show you grips on your pitch. How did you get, because he could spin the ball like nobody's business, right? You could do that, and then you could say, okay, tell me, you could, you know, what really happened, but what's the behind the scenes story in this, you know, in that moment, and he could give you all kinds of stuff too. He'd probably be like Burley in that you could go anywhere with him, and you'd wind up getting great stuff.
I felt so too. Yeah.
That was one of those incredible things with David Cohn's perfect game, which you may have seen if you've seen the Yogi Berra doc, is that Don Larson threw out the first pitch to Yogi Berra the day that David Cohn pitched his perfect game. Yeah. Like, Don Larson is watching that game right there as David Cohn. It was like, that's incredible. Like, how does that happen? Yeah. Okay. You know, David Cohn's fine. I'm gonna throw him back in. Ernie Witt. Ernie Witt was someone I sit with.
Ernie Witt would be very good. So I don't know Ernie very well. So obviously Ernie had retired before I got in as a broadcaster, and I've met Ernie a handful of times, maybe through Baseball Canada, that sort of stuff, or again coming back for a reunion. But I would say of everybody you guys have mentioned, maybe with the exception of Burley and Kawasaki, I probably know all of the other guys better than I know Ernie. So so it's tough for me to be judge and jury on this one. I think there would be great stories. It's funny because, you know, Ernie and Buck were the catching platoon. So I know one of them as well as you can know a guy, and the other guy I don't know very well at all. So I'm not sure, Sandy, I have much to give you here. I won't make stuff up. I think he'd be really interesting. And he played, you know, catchers are good. I think catchers by definition kind of will give you good stuff, right? Because they see the whole game. Look at how many catchers are managers, and look at how many catchers are broadcasters.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a coincidence.
Yeah. We talk a lot about that on the show.
I think he'd be really interesting, and I think he'd have great stories. Well, he'd have great stories about Dave Stieb. Obviously.
Oh yeah, there you go.
But so does Buck, and I've
I think the best thing to Ernie being a manager, and Ernie's, you know, the way he is, his demeanor, when you sit down for your hour of healing with David Wells, Ernie's the guy to be there, you know, to just facilitate that meeting and just ask the right questions, and then of course lead to at least a handshake, but hopefully a hug at the end of that.
We've had handshakes.
Okay, maybe a hug then.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Duly noted.
I have two more players. The other guys each have one. And I'm starting to wonder if we are going to hit any of the players on your list.
I don't think we are.
Perfect game right now. And can
Yeah.
we make it all the way through?
You haven't gotten one yet, and none of their names has come up like
Tangentially or
as an aside. Yeah, I was going to say tangentially, but I struggle with that word sometimes. So, but there are a few guys you would consider stars, and there are, and again, some of them would be impossible for you to guess because I just knew the guy and he wasn't a great player or he wasn't a star, but I was like, that's the funniest guy I've ever seen. So I picked that guy, that sort of thing. I think we'll hit one. I'm hopeful we'll hit one.
I don't think my last pick's going to make it, so this might be my last shot. Roy Halladay.
Roy Halladay is not on my list.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yes. So Roy Halladay, again, as you guys know, he was a very, very, very private person. I loved Roy Halladay. I thought Roy Halladay was kind and thoughtful and polite. On game day, I didn't talk to Roy. I didn't even nod at Roy Halladay. As you guys know, starting pitchers, you let them to be themselves, and even his own teammates wouldn't talk to him. But again, doing a couple of events with Roy. Actually, one time he was at the All-Star game. I don't remember the year. I think it was in Colorado. No, I don't remember where it was. But he was at the All-Star game, and I was calling the game for ESPN Radio, and we happened to fly back on the same plane. And I was sitting across the aisle from him, and his wife was there, and the two boys were there. But the boys were little, obviously. They were like 6 and 4. And so for a couple of hours, I saw Roy Halladay, family man, Roy Halladay dad. And we talked, but he was, anybody who's been on a plane with a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old knows what that's like. So he was wrestling with all that. So, but, just got a chance to spend some good time with him away from the field, really. And I thought he was a wonderful guy and was heartbroken when he passed away. I think it's a great pick. I did consider him. I think he'd be quiet. Like I don't think he's going to make you spit out your beer with laughter when you talk, but I think he, if you asked him about whether it's his upbringing, or I think I'd spend the whole hour just asking him about his mental process, getting ready for a game, that sort of thing. Right. I think that would be fascinating. So if you're looking for that kind of a window into the mind of a guy who really, really struggled at the beginning of his career and quite possibly never could have come back from the minors. But he dug deep in every way that a guy can dig deep and wound up turning himself into a Hall of Famer. So I think that'd be a fascinating hour.
I think for my beer, I would do it at like a bowling alley or something with all these guys. So if the conversation's going nowhere, at least I could engage their competitiveness, we'd bowl, get them into the sport.
Or darts.
Darts, there you go. We'd throw. Okay.
We're the last round here, Mike. You're going with friend of the podcast here.
This is my last shot. I don't think it's going to click, but we had him on a couple of months ago, and I found him to be an incredibly thoughtful and insightful guy. He really surprised me. He was great. He was very funny. Jose Cruz Jr. is my last pick.
Interesting. Okay, so Jose was there my first time around.
Right.
And I talked to him a lot, but I always thought it was just kind of surfacey baseball stuff. I didn't feel like I got to that next level. I've talked to him a few times. He wound up being involved with the Players Association for a while. And now I think he's the coach at Rice University.
That's right.
Yeah, he's the head coach.
So. He came to us from his manager's office at Rice.
Oh, he did? Okay. And I always thought he was a really interesting guy. When I knew him, he was young, very young. And listen, he had grown up in a baseball family. He had a lot of talent. And my recollection is maybe at times it was like untapped talent. Like I think we all thought there's another level there for him. So the other thing too is young Danny at TSN was different than now. It was harder for me to go up to players back then and just BS with them or shoot the bull with them.
Right,
I was a little intimidated by some of these guys, not him specifically. He was never an intimidating personality at all. But it's interesting you say that you had a lot of fun with him, because I believe it. I never got to that level personally with him, but it's a good pick. I think you'd have a good time. And he's done so many different things in baseball. His dad, actually, if I were to list one of my, my 10 favorite players of all time, his dad is probably on the list. I loved his dad. for whatever reason. I just thought he was really cool, and the way he played the game, I really liked it. But I think that's a good pick. I think you'd have a very satisfied. I don't know that that would be the top one of your 5, but I think the floor is very high on that one. I think you would have a very good time.
Yeah. It's funny because he came on to, it was our Father's Day episode, so he came on to judge best father-son duos, and
that's a good one.
But Allison Footer, again, we brought her before. She was around the Astros. She's always around the Astros. That's the Cruz family, and she can't say enough good things about the entire family because Jose Cruz Jr.'s kid is playing. He's in double or triple A with the Tigers now. So it's another generation, and again, cool. Can't say enough good things about him. But his Junior's stories about his dad are really amazing.
I would love them.
Great
because that's I worked with Aaron Boone for a number of years, so I've heard stories about Bob Boone, and the stories about the 60s and 70s are way different than the stories about now.
Well, the encapsulated story quickly is that he said that one time his dad got hit by a pitch, and his dad just took each finger off his batting gloves and put them on the ground and just went around to the base very coolly.
That's fine.
Next time to the plate, smash it to the park. It was like the coolest thing my dad ever did. He said
his dad was cool. His dad was a cool guy. Yeah, I liked him a lot. Yeah.
Matt, do you want me to go, or do you you really want your pick to be the last pick, or you want me to?
Okay, it's up to you. You want me to go?
I'll jump.
If you'll have a chance, I'll go now so that we'll see if we can hit it with yours.
Okay, that sounds good.
Because my last pick, I was at the last game of the season this year against Tampa, and I want to take starting pitcher Wes Parsons out for a beer, and I'm buying this round.
You know what? If you do that, I'm coming with just so I can buy him one. I felt I don't know Wes Parsons. I never shook his hand. I never met him. So, but I know why you're saying that. God, did I feel sorry for him? And I don't think he was getting booed. I think it was just the situation that was getting booed. But I think people should have known enough not to have boo at all and have it be misconstrued as if it being on him. I mean, you talk about taking one for the team. It was a tough situation. If you can ever get Wes Parsons into a bar, I'm coming with, and I'll buy. He's not on my list, but that was a hard game to call, and I the poor guy. I think he was out there 4 innings, if I'm not mistaken, because they needed every out they could get from him. It was just a weird situation. Yeah, you used to, when you used to be able to go to 40. You'd have had 6 Wes Parsons on the team, and everybody would have gone an inning. But unfortunately, he was the only Wes Parsons available that day. So he's not on my list, but it's an interesting pick.
But it would also be fun. Like, a lot of these guys are stars, and you get sort of, we go out and you talk to somebody from a star perspective, but it would be great to get the perspective of a player like Parsons, who, spent time with the Atlanta organization. I think he's like 1-4 in his career or something. Just what that's like, getting to have a beer with that.
Like a Moonlight Graham a modern day Moonlight Graham kind of situation. So
so not on the list. Okay, Sam.
I was going to say, just to make sure, Wes Parsons not on the list, Dan?
Not on the list.
All right, final pick. Is he on your list? Buck Martinez.
He is. He's not on my list because I've had 1,000 beers with him. I've spent 1 million hours with him. So he's a great. It's a great pick because Buck has unbelievable stories. So Buck's roommate for several years in Kansas City was George Brett, who might be my all-time favorite player. Wow. So let's start there. Buck played for 17 years as a catcher. So he started in 1969 and played against, that era of players, and then played right up through 1986. He played for 3 great teams in Kansas City, Milwaukee, and Toronto. And again, like Ernie, did you have Ernie as well?
I had Ernie Wood as well.
You had Ernie and Buck. Okay. So you might get some crossover in the stories, or you might get different versions of the same story. You never know. So that it would be a fabulous hour for you. Listen, the guy, he's been telling stories on the air, doing great stuff as a broadcaster for 30 some years or something like that. So it's an absolute home run of a pick, but he's not on my list. Because I've been doing that a lot. So
Dan, do you want to tell us who you think? The 3 teams, to make sure you have them there now, because you have.
I saw you text.
Yeah.
You want my list first before we do?
I was going to ask you. Do you want to do your list first and then do a judgment?
I'll do my list first. So I'll go from go chronologically.
Okay.
Lloyd Mosby was on my list. So Lloyd Shaker is hilarious, absolutely hilarious. And for whatever reason, it's like some speaking events or something like that that he's been at, I've been at, and my mom loves Lloyd Mosby, has always loved Lloyd Mosby. So I would always take my mom to the events where Lloyd Mosby was, and I told Shaker that, and they haven't seen each other in a few years, but like he remembers her, and he gives my mom a hug, and he calls her sweet. Mom. And Lloyd Mosby, like if you picture Lloyd Mosby right now, I'm sure you picture him laughing or smiling or something, or cackling or telling a story. That's Lloyd Mosby. So Lloyd Mosby was on my list. At the other end of the personality scale is maybe my all-time favorite Blue Jay back when I was just getting into them in the early, I got into them in the late 70s, but this is from the early 80s. I was a Willie Upshaw guy, big Willie Upshaw guy. And I think he'd be more like a Roy Halladay, kind of introspective and thoughtful and quiet and all that. But he's my favorite Jay, so I had to have
I have to confess here, Dan, I have heard you say that before somewhere. I heard you confess that you knew his first, like he was the first Blue Jay to drive in 100 runs, 24 home runs, 104 RBIs. I remember you talking about that. And I almost picked him just to try to kiss him. But I didn't, and maybe I should have.
See, I've unknowingly been leaving breadcrumbs for this podcast for years and years now.
Yeah, I know.
I say, listen, I took Buck for the same reason, Mike, and it failed too. So it's
now I go back to kind of a Lloyd Mosby kind of personality. I was thinking about the World Series teams. I said, I got to have somebody from the World Series teams on here. Thought about this guy. I went with Candy Maldonado because I think Candy would be unbelievable. Well, I know Candy a little bit, not great. I've never had a beer with him, but I think he'd be unbelievably funny. And then I'm voting for maybe the nicest one of the 2 or 3 nicest Blue Jays I've ever met is Pat Hentgen. Pat Hentgen is just salt of the earth. And when I talked about the group who had Delgado, Matt?
Matt's guy.
Yeah, when Matt had Delgado, and I talked about a group of guys who took care of me when I came up and didn't know what I was doing. Delgado, Sean Green, Paul Quantrill, who's a good friend of mine, Dan Plesac, Pat Hentgen, Ed Sprague. Those guys just were unbelievable to me. So I said, I got to have one of these guys in there. And I chose Hentgen because he's one of the nicest people I've ever met. Here's one nobody in a million years would ever get, again, from my TSN days, but just super funny. Jacob Brumfield. Remember Jacob Brumfield?
Yeah, of course.
I don't know where Jacob Brumfield is now. I haven't talked to him or heard of him in 25 years. But every time I walked in the clubhouse, there was an argument over the card game, and everybody was yelling at Brumfield, and he was laughing and defending himself. And eventually the cards would get thrown around the room. And Jacob Brumfield just looked like the life of the party. So I put Jacob Brumfield on.
Okay, he's going to show up at the end of the Wells and just to like surprise you. And then we got one more guest.
All right. Super nice guy, John McDonald. Johnny Mac. Anybody who remembers him, and that's from the era where I wasn't here. But so he's the one guy I picked. My son, one of his favorite guys, and also a super nice guy, Deoner Navarro. I think Deoner Navarro would be very fun. And here's the one guy I thought one of you might say, Russell Martin. I think Russell Martin.
Oh yeah,
he was on my list.
Yeah, you give Russell a little sodium pentothal, you're going to get good stuff, I think.
Well, he was born in East York, I think. He's an East Ender, Sandy. We should have.
He's Montreal.
Yeah,
he grew up in East
right,
York.
he was.
Yeah, he is East York.
Oh, he's born.
But he's East York. Yeah, EY. When he used to come to the play, we used to yell EY for life, and I don't know if you ever heard it, but figured out what we were doing, but we were yelling EY for life for no reason.
I would love talking to him. I mean, again, a catcher and played for so many winning teams and played in so many big games and so intense, and I think he'd be great. And then I said, I'm going to pick a couple of current Blue Jays. And this was hard. Another catcher, Danny Jansen, is a personal favorite of mine. One of my favorites that I've ever met. And we have really, really good talks. He's very open with me. He trusts me what I can say and what I can't say on the air. And I love Danny Jansen. I think he's a great, great guy. And then another guy I love, not a star, but a guy who I just think is a terrific guy and have a very nice relationship with is Santiago Espinal. I would sit down and do this with Espinal in a heartbeat. I really like him. So he puts a smile on everybody's face. So I'll tell you, you may or may not have seen this on Twitter. It was Canada. Was it Canada Day? It was Canada Day, I think. And Siddle and Hazel and I were doing the game. And Hazel said, let's get a picture. I think it was Canada Day. Anyways, I needed a picture taken or something. And then Vladdy walked by and I said, Vladdy, get in here. We're all Canadian. We're doing a picture. So Vladdy came in and Espinal was walking out of the clubhouse. So I said to Espinal, can you take the picture? So he goes, sure. And he takes the picture and he hands it back to me. And I look at the picture and it's great. And I tweet out the picture. Then like 3 hours later, I'm looking at my phone and before he took the picture of us, he did the old turn, reverse it. And so there's a picture of Espinal like staring weirdly into my phone, which he did purposely just to mess around with me. And that's who he is. He's a great guy. He's super nice to everybody that he meets. And I would love to spend an hour with him doing
nice. Matt, we don't have Frank around right now to check this, but you're right. East York born, Montreal then back over. So East York born is correct for Russell Martin.
Okay. And I almost picked Danny Jansen solely for, wasn't it him who was in the dugout talking to George Springer's bat once? You had him, he was like whispering to the bat, and then Springer went up there, and I was like, that's a guy I could hang out with.
That was him. Yeah. He's great. There are a lot of guys on this team. I bet I've gotten a chance to get to know Bo Bichette really well. He'd be fascinating, fascinating. I don't think you're gonna, he's not gonna make you giggle like Lloyd Moseby is, but he'd be fascinating too. There are a lot of guys on this team. So, all right, I'm looking at the list.
So this is you making decisions. Making judgment. And whatever it is, anything you want to base it on, Dan. It can be one
criteria is your own
team.
Criteria is my own. Okay, so Sandy, Barfield, Fernandez, Witt, Wells, and Buck. So all of your players, Sandy, are from a totally are from your childhood. They're all from
That's it. I skirted around the Willie Upshaw area.
Yeah.
Get there. Yeah.
Mike has Gibby, Clemens, Burley, Cone, and Cruz, and Matt has Vladdy, Kawasaki, Delgado, Halliday, and Parsons. I am sweating this out. I'm not going first, second, and third. I'm just going first.
That's
Nobody's
fine.
finished last.
I definitely, while you think, Dan, I think I definitely have the best pitching staff.
Oh yes, that's true. Yeah.
Do you have
that counts for anything? But what's that?
Do you have Parsons? I'm sorry. What?
No, I got Halliday and Parsons. And then Faith and Rain.
Let's be kind.
All right. Let me so I'm basing this on all five. It's not just my one favorite, or this is a group award, right?
Yeah.
Because I tell you, Gibby's strong, man. Gibby's really strong. So that was. Did you give you guys gave them to me in the order that you drafted them?
No, I give them to you in the order we just revealed them.
Oh, okay. So who was the first overall pick?
Gibby was.
It was
Gibby was. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm going with Matt.
Whoa, Wes Parsons.
I'm going with Matt.
And Kawasaki. I'm outraged.
Well, I mean,
and I'll tell you why. I'm looking at Delgado and Halliday a lot, and I think those two guys would be great. This is so tough for me. Like, I'd love to sit there with Tony Fernandez. I would love. He jumps off the page at me too. Gibby is great, and I think Cone would be sensational. If those are the guys who have jumped off. Those guys that I think. But I think if you get the best of Roy Halladay and the best of Carlos Delgado and Vladdy would be fun too. So Vladdy would be terrific. So I think. I like the creativity too in Matt's list a little bit. So I think it's a photo finish. We had to go to replay to determine this, and the review took a while, but I think I'm going.
Matt is always creative. I will say Matt is always creative. He always figures out. He always picks guys from the Cleveland Spiders, who we were all huge fans of in 1890, whatever it was. And
so now, but I've picked Matt both times I've come on.
What's going on there? Yeah, what's up with that? Okay, next year when you're back for Groundhog Day, we'll make sure that you don't pick Matt. So it's gonna be like Groundhog Day, but then you don't pick the same person. It's gonna be a real mind-blowing thing. I think.
I mean, I'm like, I actually shouldn't have asked who I picked last time because I didn't want that to push me in another direction away from it. So
really right. You picked fair and square.
Well,
this was very close. This could have gone any of three different ways. Honestly, could.
Dan, unbelievable. What a way to spend the last day of the year, December 31st with Dan Shulman. We'd always would like to have an hour or more with you. We enjoy these hours with you. Yeah, please come back and do it again on another holiday.
All right, let's hope for a good fun. Yeah, let's hope for a good fun 2024. Let's hope we're all talking baseball deep into October.
Let's hope so. Right? Yeah.
Love it. Okay, Dan.
Thanks,
have a great New Year's. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. You too.
Well, we did it. It was fun.
It was.
Hey, listen, it's a holiday tradition now that he has to keep coming back.
Yeah, and it all comes together because it is December 31st, and Mike, you're having a beer with these guys, so it is really tied together.
Yep,
this
is it. It is it. I will just say that Dan Shulman was on for Christmas last year. He was on for New Year's Eve.
Well, he was
year.
on for like the Christmas holiday season.
Sure, I mean,
but
fair enough. But it was released on the Christmas Day.
Okay. Yeah.
So next year, Boxing Day. Maybe we'll get Shulman.
Arbor Day.
Or maybe the New Year's Day hangover spectacular.
Jan 1, yeah.
That's exactly it. Okay, so thanks so much, everybody, for listening. This has been This Day in Sports for New Year's, December 31st. I'm Sandy Jobin Bevins.
I'm Matt Kippen.
I'm Mike Shera.
And over there,
That's me.
Frank Russo. Friends,
Catfish Frank Russo.
Hope you had a great year behind you. Hope you have a great year ahead. And listen to This Day in Sports. All right. That was fun.
Excellent.
Yeah, that was good.
I said Shulman after just in case he bails, and then, it's an easier cut.
Yeah. I saw a clip of Shulman. He's in Seattle today.
Oh, yeah?